Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. Today I'm very excited. We are doing my autumn TBR. I normally don't do TBRs because as the biggest mood reader in the world, I just know I would be setting myself up for failure. But I feel like a seasonal TBR is a little more doable, especially fall, because I just feel like fall is the season to read. And there are so many fall books, new releases, just things I'm excited about. So today I have a lot of books to go through, all different genres. So let's get into it. First up is actually my current read, Payback's a Witch. This is a sapphic, witchy, John Tucker Must Die vibe. Literally, you wouldn't have to say anything else to get me to read this book. Are you kidding? Literally, what more could you possibly want out of a fall read? Emmy is from this small witchy town, but when she was young, she gets her heart broken, so she decides to leave town and live a completely normal life without magic. She's now in her late 20s and she has to come back for this competition that they do between all the witch families in the town. And as she finds out that the guy that broke her heart also broke her childhood best friend's heart and a girl she knows from school, so they decide to team up to sabotage him during the competition. And during that, two of the women fall in love. I'm only a couple chapters in, but so far I'm really liking it. The next book I've been seeing all over TikTok recently, and it's The Pumpkin Spice Cafe. Look at this cover and tell me that that's not Stars Hollow. I'm currently doing my annual fall Gilmore Girls rewatch, so I'm in the mood for like small town romance cozy vibes, and that's exactly what this is. It's about a city girl who of course has to come back to her small town and run a cafe and fall in love with a farmer. I mean, classic. The description also says it's a mystery, which I'm really intrigued by because everything else just points to it being a romance, so I'm curious what the mystery part is. But I can't wait to curl up in bed under the covers with a cup of coffee and read this. We also have a very highly anticipated new release, Iron Flame. This is the sequel to Fourth Wing. Fourth Wing is about a war college for dragon riders. It's sort of like Divergent if there was dragons, and Fourth Wing follows her first year at the school, and now this is her second year after some things get revealed at the end of the first one, and I'm really excited to see where she takes the story. Allie Hazelwood also has a new release coming out this fall, Check and Mate. This is her first young adult romance. I'm a big Allie Hazelwood fan. I really like the way she writes romances, and I'm really excited to see how that transfers into YA. This is a romance between rival chess players, which I know nothing about chess, but I also didn't know anything about theoretical physics or neuroscience, so I'm thinking I can still enjoy this. And who doesn't love a good rivals, enemies to lovers? Another young adult new release romance is Betting on You by Lynn Painter. I have sort of mixed feelings about Lynn Painter. I liked Better Than the Movies, even though it wasn't like an all-time favorite of mine, and I didn't really care for the do-over that much, so I'm hoping I like this and it can be like the tiebreaker. This follows Bailey, who works at a hotel water park, and literally that's all I had to read to want to read this because I worked at a water park. It was my first job, and I actually met my like ex-boyfriend working at the water park, so I just have to read this. Like, it's way too close to my actual life for me to not read it. But basically I think they meet on like a trip or something and don't really get along, and now they're working together, and they're doing the whole like When Harry Met Sally, girls and boys can't be just friends, blah 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 shtick, and I think that leads them to eventually fake dating. So this book just has so many things I love in it. I'm really excited to get to it. Another sequel I'm really excited to get to is Wildfire by Hannah Grace. This is the second book in the Maple Hill series. The first one is Icebreaker. Icebreaker was a college romance between a hockey player and a figure skater. Wildfire now follows one of the other guys on that hockey team and another girl from their college while they're working at a summer camp. As someone who was obsessed with The Parent Trap and Camp Rock as a kid, I always wanted to go to summer camp. I love that premise. They also don't allow relationships between people in the staff, so they have to sneak around. And it just sounds really fun, and I really liked Icebreaker, so I think I'm gonna like this too. Although I will say I kind of wish this came out in the summer. It feels a little late in the year to be reading a summer camp romance. I am a Nora Ephron stan first and a human second. I love Nora Ephron. This time of year I literally watch her movies on a loop. So when I saw that there was When Harry Met Sally retelling coming out, I was so excited. This is an enemies to friends to lovers between a comedian and a chef, and it also has a little bi representation, which I love. because they cross paths because they're both sleeping with the same woman. And then just like when Harry met Sally, it's years later, they connect again, they become friends, and the relationship evolves from there. And look at this cover, like you just have to read this in the fall. Bright Young Women is a thriller that's based on a real case that happened in the 1970s where a serial killer was targeting a sorority. And I think this follows sort of two perspectives, one of a sorority girl and I believe this follows different perspectives, the sorority, but then it follows the friend of another victim of his who is convinced that it's the same killer and is trying to prove it and figure out what happened. And I think this sounds really good. I don't think I've ever read a thriller that was actually based on a real case, so I'm really interested to see how that all plays out. Another thriller I'm excited to get to is Midnight is the Darkest Hour by Ashley Winstead. I read two of Ashley Winstead's previous books. One was a romance, Fool Me Once, and the other one was a dark academia thriller, In My Dreams I Hold a Knife. And I really liked both of them. And I just think it's so impressive when an author can write multiple genres really well. And so I have really high hopes for this. I can't wait to get to it. This is a gothic southern thriller that takes place in a small town in Louisiana. And it sounds like it sort of has like a haunting aspect to it. There's like town lore about this vampiric figure, a twisted tale of murder, obsessive love, and the beastly urges that lie dormant within us all. And this is what really got me. An examination of the ways we've come to expect love, religion, and stories to save us, the lengths we have to go in order to take back power, and the monstrous work of being a girl in this world. That sounds so good. I can't wait to read that. Like, whoever wrote that synopsis, you deserve a raise. I'm hooked. Cleat Cute is a sapphic rivals to lovers about two women on the same soccer team. Have I ever watched a soccer game in my life? No. But I hear sapphic rivals to lovers and I mark it as want to read. It's a friends with benefits situation that occurs leading up to the World Cup, and also one of the characters I believe is recovering from an injury. And I think they play the same position and that's why they're rivals. And it sounds like a fan fiction I would read, but in the best way. Another book that reminds me of a fan fiction I would read, but again in a really good way, is Stars in Your Eyes. This follows two actors. One is like Hollywood bad boy and the other one is like golden boy, up and coming new star, and they get cast as the leads in a romance movie, but one of them makes a snide remark about the other one, so now they have to fake date to get good publicity. As someone who can't go 3 days without watching a rom-com, I love this premise. I personally like books that follow famous people and actors. I know some people don't. I love fake dating and I'm really excited to get to that one. Next is the third book in the Bright Falls series. The other ones are Delilah Green Doesn't Care and Ashford Parker is Fine? Perfect? Ashford Parker is perfect? Why can't I remember? Ashford Parker Doesn't Fail. These are all sapphic romances that follow different friends in a friend group, and I've really liked both books so far, so I'm really excited for this next one to come out. Iris is a writer of romance books. She's the only one left in the friend group still single, so it's kind of giving her writer's block. She has a one-night stand to try and get out of her funk, but it ends up being a horrible one-night stand. So now that her writer's block is even worse after that, she decides to do a local play where the woman she had the one-night stand with is in the play, which somehow leads them to a fake dating situation. Again, like, can you tell there's a theme here? If it's fake dating, I will read it. Another really anticipated new release is The Brothers Hawthorne by Jennifer Lynn Barnes. This is the fourth book in the Inheritance Game series, which follows Avery, who inherits an entire estate from the richest man in Texas. It's billions and billions of dollars, but she has no idea why or how she's connected to him. And the only catch to her inheriting all this money is that she stays in the mansion with his 4 grandsons. And so the first 3 books in the series are following that. They're trying to figure out why she got this money, how she's related to him. There's like all sorts of clues and puzzles and different storylines. And there's also like a love triangle she has between 2 of the brothers. So this is sort of a spin-off to that series after the Inheritance Games is concluded. This is now following 2 of the brothers, Jameson and Grayson, as they sort of go off and do their own thing. I'm really interested to see what she does with this book because in my opinion, the Inheritance Games wraps up kind of perfectly. I really didn't think there was going to be another one. So I'm intrigued to see where she takes the story. And I've also been hearing sort of mixed things about it. So I want to read it and see for myself what I think. Another witchy romance on the list is The Very Secret Society of Irregular Witches. Why is that so hard to say? In this world, witches have to hide their powers, but she decides to make a YouTube channel where she's a fake witch, except she's a real witch. But someone sees this and figures out she's actually a witch and invites her to this secret school where she will be teaching 3 other witches. This definitely sounds like it has a found family aspect. She's an orphan, so she has no family. She's used to being very isolated. And I believe it's a romance between her and the librarian at the school. I love witchy things, and I feel like this book has been all over the place recently. It's definitely having a moment. I'm excited to get to it. Another book I keep seeing everywhere is My Roommate is a Vampire. The main character is an artist who's struggling to pay rent, so when she sees an ad for a really cheap apartment, she decides to take it. Turns out the catch is that her roommate is a vampire. It's fine for a little while because he obviously like sleeps during the day and is awake at night, and from what I've heard, since he's so old because he's a vampire, he sort of acts like he's in like a Regency romance novel. I'm gonna be honest, this one scares me a little. I'm a little nervous for this one, but I think it could be really fun and campy if it's done well. Another romance with a fall Halloween vibe is Do Your Worst. Sparks fly when an oculate expert and a disgraced archaeologist become enemies with benefits in this steamy romance set in a Scottish castle. Are you kidding? I'm obsessed with Scotland. I want to go there so bad. All I had to read was romance set in Scottish castle and I was completely sold. She's there to break a curse on the castle and he tries to get her fired. He doesn't want her there. But of course, they're in close proximity in a castle, so obviously they're gonna hook up. And that just sounds so fun to me. The next book is, let's take a guess, a sapphic fake dating romance. This one's Fly With Me. Olive, who is a nurse who's scared of flying but ends up having to step up when there's a medical emergency on her flight, and she sort of ends up stranded after the flight has to make the emergency landing, so the co-pilot Stella offers to give her a ride. After a video of Olive saving the life goes viral, they decide that it would both benefit them to have a fake relationship, and as you guys can see from the rest of this video, this is right up my alley. The next book is one I have been meaning to get to for so long and just haven't yet. Our Wives Under the Sea. This is a horror about a woman whose wife goes on a deep sea mission and goes missing for a few months, and now she's back, but she's not the same as when she left, and that's really all it says. The synopsis is pretty vague. She, I believe, gets trapped in a submarine, not unlike some recent current events, but that's really all the synopsis says, so I'm intrigued to see like where it goes from there. But I am a wimp, so I'm hoping it's not too scary. Every year in the fall, I tell myself I'm going to start reading classics, and then I never do. So I'm doing that to myself again this year, and I'm gonna say I want to read Wuthering Heights. From what I've seen, this is like the gothic romance book. Even though I've heard about this book a million times, I don't actually really know what it's about other than it's like a gothic romance. Even Goodreads like doesn't have a description for it. Catherine and Heathcliff, recounted with such emotional intensity that a plain tale of the Yorkshire moors acquires the depth and simplicity of ancient tragedy. Sure, sounds good to me. Sign me up. Lastly, we have Yellowface by R.F. Huang. This follows 2 best friends who both went to Yale together and both are now published authors, but one is like this rising star and one is not as successful. When the one friend dies, the other friend decides to steal her manuscript about Chinese laborers in World War I, even though she's white, and she tries to cover up the fact that she's white by changing her name and using like a different photo, and it's about the repercussions of that and someone finding out her secret and wanting to expose her. Yellowface takes on questions of diversity, racism, and cultural appropriation, not only in the publishing industry, but the persistent erasure of Asian American voices and history by Western white society. I think this sounds so good, and as a white person, I'm really excited to read about the like implications of this and the cultural appropriation, and just hopefully come away more educated on the topic. If you have any recommendations for me, please comment them, because why not make my never-ending TBR even longer? And if you want to follow me on any of my other socials, I'll have them linked down below. And thank you so much for watching. Bye!